Okay, we'll get started. Hello. My name is Graham Hughes, and I'm going to be your tutor for this webinar today. I'm going to show you a demonstration of the most significant new features in MAXQDA 2022 over the next hour or so. Now, this version of the program was released on the 23rd of November 2021, just a few days ago, and so these facilities are pretty new to me as well. As always with MAXQDA, there is strong continuity from one version to the next, so you will be able to continue using the tools with which you're already familiar. This webinar is based on the assumption that you have already used MAXQDA 2020, and so I'll be concentrating on what is new. There will be other webinars in the next few days that will introduce first-time users to the program, those that have had little previous experience. Now, normally, I would ask you to hold your questions until near the end of the webinar, but this time I'll be happy to answer queries that relate to the item I'm currently describing, so please feel free to send these via the chat window as in the usual way. And to save others trouble, please address any questions to everyone so all can see what's being asked, and it means I can see them on my second screen more quickly. So here is a summary list of the topics that I hope to cover in the next hour. The first four here are the major ones, and I'll spend most of the time on these, but there are some exciting surprises amongst the apparently lesser ones. I grew up with a saying, the best presents come in the smallest parcels, and so I try not to underestimate the apparently unimportant. I'll start with the wholly new tool, questions, themes, and theories. So switching to the live program, you can immediately see a new color scheme. We've got the orange bar menu bar in place of the blue color that was there for MAXQDA 2020. And this will remind you that you're using a different version. But otherwise, there are no substantial changes to the regular interface. Except I did notice earlier today that the Reset Activations button has been moved from the Analysis menu to the Home menu. So that's one little change, and that wasn't in that location before. But otherwise, the Home menu looks exactly the same as it did before. So I promised you the questions, themes, and theories, and that is in the Analysis ribbon. It's a new item at the very beginning of the Analysis ribbon. QTT, the acronym Questions, Themes, and Theories. Let's open it where I've got an already assembled worksheet. Now this bit of program is like a file or folder that you can collect relevant materials as you're working through your analysis. In some ways, it might be considered like a scrapbook or a project diary almost, where when you come across important things, you can pop them into your QTT, into a QTT worksheet and assemble them so that towards the end of your project, you can come back and look through all of the things that you saved. Now, each worksheet has a title, which is used to identify it in one or two places. That's not so significant, but it has two fields for subject and research questions. And I've populated this. I'm using the English language example project, the work-life balance. And so I've said the subject of my research is work-life balance as experienced by adults of working age. This is a field that you can put in and edit at any stage if you like. And underneath it, the research question, there's a kind of sub-question which I want this particular QTT worksheet to address. How does family life impact on perceptions of work-life balance? Within that, within this folder, we've got a series of tabs for different kinds of MAXQDA data. Each kind of MAXQDA analysis data has a home in a tab in the QTT spectrum here. So the first one is codes and themes. I've got a whole bunch of codes up here open that I've already added to this working one. And underneath each section, we have a kind of memo field, which is there for insights, for comments, for your own writings, fully editable as always, with date stamps and so on, so you can build up ideas and so on here. But in this first sheet, we would put codes and themes that are related to the question we are trying to answer here, the research question. And then we can have another one with important segments, quotations, and so on, summary tables, extracts from our summarizing, memos have their own one, visuals where we might have outputs from Code Matrix Browser and Document Portrait I've got here. And where we've got one like the visuals, each separate visual that has been put into the QTT has its own comments field, a good place to record why you thought it was worth sending this particular visual to the QTT, what was significant at the time that you were running it. So that's the visuals, and a separate one for maps. And again, each map has its own comments field, its own insights field. I've got 2 maps in here, so 2 insights fields. Let's start a new worksheet so that I can show you a bit more how this works through. I'll accept its name of worksheet 2, and the subject I will just quickly put in work life. Whoops, always difficult to type and talk at the same time. Work-life balance, I'll do that. Research question, I'm just going to say impacts of workplace on the balance. Don't skimp these 2 fields when you're doing this for real yourself. This is a very important step. It may seem like a frustration because you want to get on with the actual exciting stuff of putting stuff into it, but the purpose of this QTT is to help you anchor your work in your research questions. So a good set of research questions, of sub-questions and so on, will help you going forward. So when I click that OK, it opens up a second worksheet. Now in the My Worksheets field, I've got my first trial, the one I've been displaying, and we're in worksheet 2. And here we can see the 2 things I put in. And I can edit these fields later on if either I've got typing mistakes or I feel I could express them better and so on. But now all of the sections are empty, and I want to take you quickly through what's going on here, because each of these has an instruction box because there are different ways of populating these QTT worksheets. So for codes, it says add elements. So if I click on this, I get a full code system, and I can pick ones, fixed hours, unpredictable hours, what look like relevant codes, salary, and amount of hours. We'll take that, put those ones in. So those codes have now gone in, and I've got a possibility to put any insights. Now, the codes are the only one of these items which are actually really dynamic. So at any stage, by clicking on the little symbol here, I can open up, whoops, one click, I can open up the coded segments and see all of the coded segments that have been attached to this particular code. I've only got 2 at the moment in this particular one, and so on. So relevant coded segments, codes and themes come into this one. Important segments, it is drag and drop from any one of the retrieved segments, the document browser, or the overview of coded segments. Now here, multiple screens would obviously be quite helpful. I'm just trying to make my window a little bit smaller. Let's just drag this over here. Select a segment slightly at random and drag that segment in. Okay, I think I have to drag from the coded segment, amount of hours. Drag from the label. There we are. That's the bit that you drag. See, I said it was new to me. You drag the coding stripe. It does say there. Read what it says, Graham, and so on. So you can drag in as many important quotations as you like. Summary tables is another one, add elements. So I get a list of the summary tables that are currently in place. So let's have the work-life balance one there, click OK. And there we are, a summary table has now been brought in, and I can scroll it. And if I scroll the window a little bit more, there is a place to record an insight into why this particular table was relevant. Memos, again, you add positively by selecting from all of your many memos that you could choose in document memo. Let's just pick one of those at random, and there we go. That brings a memo in, and again we've got insights field underneath. Visuals and concept maps work in a different visuals work in a different way, because these are created on the fly in the visuals visual tools menu. So these ones you send to your worksheet. good idea to have your QTT worksheet minimized if you want to do that kind of thing. So let's just activate something and open up the Code Matrix browser from the Visual Tools. So I'm just going to get a standard Code Matrix browser here. Let's make it look colorful by turning on the heat map kind of thing. That'll do, that'll do. Make it a nice size. Yes, we'll have the totals and so on. So here in the Code Matrix browser is the little QTT symbol. So when I click on that, it says send to QTT. Which worksheet do I want to put it in? I want to put it in worksheet 2. And you can't hear it, but a little went across my headphones then. Close that, restore my QTT worksheet, and there it is, the Code Matrix browser I just created. And now, because I had that minimized, I can come straight in, and I can straight away down here type why I created this particular Code Matrix browser and why I thought it was particularly relevant to put it in this worksheet that I'm currently working on, the worksheet where I'm thinking about impacts of workplace on the work-life balance and so on. So let's just make it a little bit bigger again, because concept maps work again because maps have names and so on. So I can go and look at lists of maps and take, say, a 2 cases model. Okay, and there we are. We get a model in that has already been made in Max Maps and so on. And then the final tab, integration, is one giant memo. It's just one big insights field. So it reminds us insights, conclusions, and theories. And again, you can build this up as you're going along. But it's there for you to create your final conclusions. Let me go back to my first trial worksheet, which is a little bit better populated and so on. And then the final step is to export the worksheet. So we'll go through this now. And I'm going to put it on my desktop and I'm going to call it First Trial QTT Export. And it will go out as a docx document, as a Word document. Click Save. And I get a little prompt. Microsoft Word will ask for a confirmation that it's okay to update for the index part when it comes to. So click OK for that. You can hide that if it's going to do it too many times. Let me just come back to my desktop, and there it is on my desktop. So I will open it, and this is the thing that it told me what to expect. It contains fields that refer to other files. Do I want to update? I say yes, and there we go. And now we have a Word document, and we start with the subject, which was the subject that I put in as the heading when I created the worksheet, and the research question that this worksheet is trying to answer. And we get a table of contents, and in the table of contents, the insights or comments beneath each section is called integration. So that's what these various integrations are. In the visuals, there are 2 because I had a Code Matrix browser and a document portrait. So we got comments on each. And then the final integration tab, insights, conclusions, theories, is shown here. And then scrolling down, the codes aren't very exciting because we just get the list of codes that we, so the comments will be probably more important there. But then we get some important segments, so quotations from the report, the summary table that we put in. So these things are all now here inside a Word document, and the comments on the summary table and so on, the related memos that we'd selected, the visuals. Now, so that's really useful. The fact that the visuals that you created maybe several weeks ago are stored here in a format that they could be copied and pasted into your final thesis, your final document, report, or what have you. You can add their comments or paste them in and so on. Similarly with your concept maps and so on. And then at the very end, the final insights, conclusions, and theories, which I've skimped on because I'm just doing a quick demonstration. But let me go back now to the MAXQDA. It will populate back again. I didn't like being minimized and maximized again. Let's just try restoring it. Yes, now it comes up populated properly. So just last thing I want to emphasize, the codes that you select for the related codes are dynamic. So if after you've added codes to your QTT, you do more coding work, create new coded segments, if they are in any of the codes selected here, those new coded segments will be included in the QTT worksheet. All of the other things are static, particularly the visuals and the maps. They are just images of the visual tool table or the map display at the time that you sent it to the QTT worksheet. Those are not dynamic. They will not be altered by subsequent coding work and that sort of thing. Only the codes are dynamically linked because these depend on a link to open the overview of coded segments for that code. And of course, you can read the full coded segments by selecting any code in this, and the full text of the segment is displayed in the window at the top. Okay, so that was QTT, an exciting new tool, questions, themes, and theories. The next one I'm going to show you is called Word Explorer. But before I go on to that, any questions? Does anybody have any questions on the QTT tool I've just shown you? Send them to the chat, send them to everybody, and they'll pop up on my screen. I'm going to press on because there's lots to cover, and I want you to see it all. So just reset activations. Thanks, Amy. So the next section, Word Explorer. This is in the analysis menu. It's got its own new tool up here. And I think of this as like lexical search with turbochargers. It's based around searching for keywords. We've got a field here to put a word in. I'm just going to put in the word stress. Well, after all, think about work-life balance. I'm just going to hit explore and let it populate. Now, because I've got no activations in play, it's searched the entire example project. So it's found the word stress in all sorts of places, in 3 document groups, and so on, and in all sorts of places. It's possibly a little bit too much, but you get the idea. There's a lot of information, a lot of data populates this. So I'm going to do a different word now. I'm going to change it to family. And I'm going to do some activations. I'm going to limit it to the interview set of documents in this particular example. So it works with activated documents and codes if you want. So I'm just going to limit it to certain activated documents, the interview documents. So I select. It's grayed out. I think I've now got it. Yes, it's now showing only in activated documents. A little trouble establishing whether that was actually applying or not, but it is. It's in 10 documents and so on. And I can see from the data down below that it has done what I want. So the word family occurs 52 times across these 10 documents. So this 100% is the word family is used in every document of the activated documents that I've restricted it to. That's one of the reasons for restricting it to activated documents. So that 100% is of the activated documents. So they all mention family somewhere in their interviews. One document group, well, that's what I selected, but this 7.7% is across all the document groups of the whole project, and there is a lot more in this example project, a lot of other kinds of data. So that's why that's such a low percentage, but only the interview documents have been put into sets. So we're back to 100%. In my writing, now you used to have, on the old lexical search, you used to be able to search either in your data or in memos. Now with this Word Explorer, we're doing both. We're searching in the documents and not only memos, but also coding comments, summaries, and even paraphrases are all included in the in my writing. And these are interactively linked. So if I click on the 6 memos here, it opens up the memo manager that we learned to use in MAXQDA 2020 with the 6 hits, the 6 memos. We should find the word family somewhere in each one of these. Not quite sure. I was expecting 6. Maybe we get multiple families somewhere. Strange. Oh, family. Okay, it's in the subcodes there. Ah. Yeah, subcodes there. It is appearing. It's in the code, in these code memos. These top 3 are code memos, and the word family is in the list of subcodes. So only the 3 down here are really data that relates to the project in that direct way. So I'm getting myself tied up a little bit. So that's memos. All of these are interactive. Now, interestingly, let's look at the most frequent in these documents. There are two graphics working here. First of all, we've got a count, 13, 10, 5, and so on, and it's ordered in descending order of frequency, and a little bar chart to visually display these numbers, 13, 10, 5, 5, 4. But the other graphic here is showing a tiny portrait of the document showing where the word occurs in it. So we can see, for example, Kazumi here mentions family 5 times in one concentrated block near the middle of the interview, whereas Salim seems to keep referring to his family at all sorts of different stages through the interview. So an interesting little tiny graphic there giving you more information about where the word family occurs in the five most frequent documents. That's that 5 sets there. If I change that setting to 6, we get an extra document now for Matteo. And that also affects the most frequent codes. Now we've got the 6 most frequently used codes, a single graphic showing the bar chart approach for where family is occurring in all of these codes. Down at the bottom, we used not to have this available in MAXQDA standard, word combinations. They're not very exciting in this data because it's not very rich data, but we can see where these are consecutive words. Family lives very far away, probably, occurs once, and it's the same one as family lives very, or a different one to family lives closer. Family lives 4 times. So a moderate number of these mentions are where family lives. More interesting and less obvious, the context words. Now, for this, you need to be aware of the advanced options. This is looking for other words which occur within a fixed gap to the search word family. So time occurs 16 times, but if I go to the advanced options, we see the context words set at 5. So time occurs 16 times either within 5 words before family or within 5 words after family. I can change this, say move it up to 8. Now time has gone up to 19 occurrences. The other words in the list may have altered as I change the context. Other words may have come in more frequently and so on. So let's move this back down. Bit appeared, which wasn't there when I was on 6. Yeah, with this set to 6, bit then comes in. When I reduce the context to 5, bit comes in more often. So the thens were too far away and so on. You'll need to explore that. 5 is a good setting to start with, but it depends on the language that you're using and the kind of research that you're doing as to how that context will be particularly relevant. So that is the Word Explorer. Any questions on that while I move on to the next tool in the thing, which is the profile comparison chart. Profile comparison chart we're going to look at next. This one is a visual tool, and it's got its own icon on the toolbar here, a profile comparison chart. So I've opened up here a blank window, and actually I've gone slightly too. I can change my activation, so I don't want to have all those activated. So yes, I've gone back to 0 activations. I'm just going to activate 4 or 5 documents to start with, and I'm just going to activate. I want to just move this to the side. I want to pick some codes which have got a reasonable number, satisfied with workplace, dissatisfied with time for friends, and let's also have childcare. 3 codes. Okay, by selecting some activations, when I come into this tool, I can use those activations. It asks me to select documents, codes, or variables, and it's going to create a chart in this space. So I can do things grouped in groups or sets, but I want single documents for the moment. And because I've got some activations, I can just click the activated documents and those 5 ticks are put in. If I want to clear all ticks, I've got to tick them up, remove them all or add them all. I wouldn't recommend adding them all. Your chart will be impossible to understand with so many documents. But there's my 5, click OK. So I've got 5 documents. It's created them here. Now I want to select codes, and again I'll use the activated codes. It's selected. I've got 3 codes at the moment, so click OK. And now I start to get a chart, and I'm going to select some. Oh, let's just look at this chart first of all. Quite simple. My 3 codes are shown across the bottom: childcare, satisfied with workplace, and so on. And I've got a line with a different color for each of my 5 interviewees. And the chart is plotting the points for each document and joining them with lines. If I hover over Chris, Chris's line is highlighted, so I can see that Chris scores 0 on childcare, 1 on satisfied with workplace, and 0 on dissatisfied with time for friends and family. He's kind of the opposite of Salim, who's is the highest on the childcare and the dissatisfied with time, but has no satisfaction with his workplace. So it looks like Salim is somewhat stressed over his family, and his work is getting him down, whereas Chris is a bit more happy with it, with his workplace, and so on. What you need to know is that each graph column is scaled independently of the other columns. So this column goes from 0 to 3. So there are possibilities of 0, 1, 2, and 3 points. This one is scaled from 0 to 2. So 0, 1, and 2 are the only possible points on that scale. And this one goes from 0 to 5. Okay, so each column of this profile comparison chart is scaled separately. And as we add more data, the scales may vary. Let's add some variables. And what I want to have is the number of children, and we'll have the age variable, and click OK. And now the graph has been squeezed up a bit to get the extra ones in. And we can see we've now got 46 age points, or it goes between 22 and 46. So we've got much more separation of the lines there than was possible in the simple 3.0, 1, and 2 column here. I hope that's clear to you. And then let's add a few more. And if I add these and go back to select documents, single documents, and again activated documents, it will add them in. So now I've got many more lines, and now things start to get a little bit too complicated possibly. So be careful of having too many documents at once. And notice as I hover over any line, it gets displayed with overlapping colors where it joins with somebody else. Riley seems to be unique, whereas Tatiana shares lines with several other people. And an interesting one I want to point out, you've got the possibility of coloring according to one of the variables if you want. So let's color by variable number of children. So those with no children are getting blue lines down here, and the orange line is someone with 3 children, and this very dark blue is Salim, who's got 3 children. Oh, that's why Salim was very dissatisfied with his time for family. He's got 3 children. He's got more children than any of the others, and that's telling me something. So this chart is able to tell you things, but it will take some work to get used to it. We can, of course, send it to a QTT worksheet. So let's do that. Which one? We'll send it to worksheet 2. We might pick that up later on. Okay, so that is the profile comparison chart. Be careful not to populate it with too many columns because it gets very difficult to interpret, and also with too many documents, too many lines, because that too may become very, very difficult to interpret. You need to explore that one for yourselves to really master it. But there are lots of exciting things there. Beware of being led into fishing for interesting patterns. You should try to keep yourself led by some kind of methodological purpose, some kind of understanding of what should be going on in your data. I think it's reasonable that the number of children should be related to how dissatisfied with time for friends and family. So I would expect there to be some relationship there, and also with childcare. So that's why I've got the particular setup that I have got here. And we can remove lines by changing their activations if we want. So if I deactivate Tatiana and perhaps deactivate Kazumi just at random and come back to my select documents, go through this again, activated documents only, the deactivated ones are taken away, those lines go away, and my chart gets a little bit simpler. Okay. You're very quiet on the questions today, folks, but not to worry. I'm sorry, some of you came late. I did say at the beginning I would take questions on any section as I'm going through because it's easier for people to understand. Back to my thing. And the next one is called Team Cloud. For this, I can't do very much in MAXQDA. There's just a simple menu option, which at the moment doesn't have very much on because I'm not part of a project team. So I don't have any direct stuff to work with. So this will have to be done in more of a PowerPoint kind of presentation. But this Team Cloud is very much concerned with teamwork in MAXQDA. And as the title implies, it involves the cloud, a MAXQDA cloud. So, a few points. It is an add-on for teams of up to 5 researchers, and 1 license payment is required for the team. The team leader needs a license, but the team members can have free accounts. So just 1 payment will cover a team of up to 5 researchers. And the basic idea is that we share the files. That'll get answered as we go forward, Amy, don't worry. We share the files via a secure cloud space, but essentially we still analyze offline. So the team members will do their analysis independently, but they can work simultaneously, just they are not working on exactly the same file. We share the files online, and what MAXQDA will do through this Team Cloud is it organizes the communication and the handling of the files and the merging of the files. So it greatly simplifies what was done previously with merge projects and so on in the old one. Don't know anything about payments, Joe, I'm afraid. Please follow that up on the MAXQDA website. I'm sure there will be information about it there. So that's the theory. Remember this phrase: analyze offline, but share online. So here is a schematic diagram of the whole process. And what I've done with this diagram is I've got the blue colors indicate the actions of the team leader. The team leader has quite a different role to the team members who are here in orange. And I'll quickly try and take you around the whole cycle process over the next few slides. So we start with the team leader creating a new project, signing into Team Cloud and uploading that project into the cloud. That is the first step. The team leader creates an ordinary project, but once they've got a Team Cloud account, in their login screen, they will find they have 2 tabs, one for their ordinary projects and one for their team projects. They'll start with an ordinary project, and then when they upload it to the cloud, it will move into the team project tab here. So that's the first step. The team leader creates the project. They probably should populate it with documents, data, and so on, and quite possibly, or quite probably, a coding scheme as well, because that will need to be shared. All the data, all the documents go into the project, is the current recommendation at the first step. Having created the project and uploaded it, the team leader then invites the members to join. And this involves a routine inside MAXQDA, which creates an email and sends it to the members, each member. You can include a message in this space here, which will be displayed. So this is a kind of schematic of an email that Alex has received, telling him a new project is ready for him to work on. And if he clicks on the join project, it'll open up his MAXQDA and take him to it, I believe. So the team member now does that. He joins the project and quite possibly downloads it. And the team leader gets a message saying Alex has joined the project, which is fine. So now in Alex's computer, he too has two tabs, his own projects and team projects, and he can see his life satisfaction project down here, and it's ready for him to download. So he can download it from there in all probability. I'm not sure exactly how that step works, but it will become apparent when you get to it, I'm sure. So Alex now works on his own on the project. So going back to Ene's question, does this mean that people can work simultaneously on a file? Yes, they can work. They can all work in their own time on the file, but they are working on copies of the file. Each team member has their own download, their own copy of the file, and they are working on it on their local computer. A little point I have clarified with MAXQDA, the team members cannot move this project onto another computer. So you can't put it on a memory stick and take it home and carry on working on it at home. Better to make your project work your license on a laptop, so you take the whole computer home. You don't need to be connected to the internet to work on the project, but there may be different things about the way the project is structured, which means if you copied it and tried to work on it on a separate MAXQDA license or something, you might get some corruption. So they need to work on the one computer, each team member on the one computer, until they have completed their work. Then they're ready to upload the project. So they come into the team cloud menu, and they've got a button here to upload the project, and they can write some notes to the team leader, telling the team leader what they've done, which codes they've used, which documents they've coded, and things like that. The kind of thing that they might have put into a separate email. But all of this material, all of these messages are being collected in a project file for the team leader. So we have a full audit trail of who downloaded projects when, who re-uploaded them, and what messages they attached at that time. So now the project leader, we're back into a blue button, imports the members' files. They get a warning bell tells them there's something for you to upload. Alex has done their work, and so they can come in, and they can choose to import, and they get a kind of log of what's available, what has been imported, what's not yet been imported, and so on. And they do the merge steps, and there may have been some changes in the possibilities of what can be done in these merge steps, but only team leaders need concern themselves with this aspect. The team members just work in reasonably ordinary way, apart from the restriction of which computer they can be on. So finally, the team leader reaches a decision point. Are we finished? If we are, the team leader can end the project by exporting it as a local project. And it then leaves the cloud and becomes a perfectly ordinary project file, which can then be moved from computer to computer, copied, and so on, archived, or whatever. That's one possible outcome. But if we're not finished, if more work is needed, then the team leader can start a new cycle. So this team cloud introduces the idea of project cycles. After merging all of the projects from all of the team members in a new master project file, they can then upload that into the cloud again, or effectively, and start the next cycle, telling the team members, right, we've got to keep going, there's more work to do. So the team members get a message, another cycle is starting, please follow the instructions, which would come as part of that download, and they can then go on and repeat. So we can go round the cycle as many times as we need, not many times as we like, hopefully as many times as we need, until we reach the point where the team leader decides, that's it, job done, end the project, and export it as a local project. So it's not an ideal presentation, but hopefully it gives you the idea. Not everybody works in team projects, but even though you may be doing a PhD at the moment, in your future career, you may well find yourself working in some kind of research organization where you do need to work in teams. So it might be useful to be able to tell other people that there is this possible way of working. So that was the team cloud. Hopefully that's pretty clear. So now I'm going to move on to some of the smaller things that were on the list that I was showing you earlier. So now I'm going to talk about changes to coding tools. I'm just giving time in case anybody's got any questions. but they've asked them promptly, so I think we're probably okay. So there are a few things in the actual actions of codings that might be worth considering. So for this, I'm going to open Chris. Chris, in his interview in this live thing, and let's just come to the analysis menu. Have that there. Chris is doing some kind of joint work and learning. Twice a week he's in school and so on. So in the context of this research, work-life balance, I might decide I want to code this with a new code. And I'm going to do it in an inductive way to demonstrate this next thing. Either from the context menu, code with a new code, or, just highlight that again, or from the code with a new code button up here, open a code dialog in that way. And if I start to type hours, what the change is that MAXQDA is now doing a kind of Google suggestions to me. It's showing me all the codes that we've already got, which have got the word hours in the code name, and it's giving me the possibility, do I really need a new code, or is actually is an existing code going to be good enough for my purposes here? So I'm going to go on and say hours at school, and it now becomes a new code. Give it a red color. I can create a code memo and click OK. And there we are. It's created the code exactly in the old way. There we've got hours at school. But it might save people working in a very inductive way who find that they've accidentally created 3 or 4 codes with very similar names, because over a long period of analysis, they didn't realize that some of the rarely used codes already existed in a slightly different format. Now, it doesn't happen if you start a new code over here with a new code button here. If I type hours over here, I don't get the suggestions. Okay, so I'm going to cancel there. I think it is on either the new code or possibly the in vivo coding and the context menu code over here. That's where the code name suggestions comes. Now, another one, if I select a code that I've just created, I'll just use the one I've just created, there are 2 new features when you select an existing coded segment. For one, it's displayed in the code color. You saw me create the code with a red color. In the old days, in all previous versions of MAXQDA, when you selected a coded segment, it came up in the white on blue inverse font, didn't it? Well, now it highlights the segment as it exists in the code color, and it has the PDF code grabbers. Those who've worked coding PDFs will be familiar with these. If you need to resize a coded segment, move the boundaries, even in what was originally a Word document, we can now do it rather than the old way you had to highlight a new segment completely. Now I can pick up a grabber and move it. I can move the start. Not finished yet. Okay. Oh, I've got to move. Okay. As soon as I finish, that's interesting. I can't move both ends. So I say that and then move this one. Say I want to change the coded segment to that. Each time I get a fresh dialog, I've done it in 2 steps because I moved both ends of the coded segment. Perhaps that's not quite such a common thing to do. More often one will just move one end or the other. But that's how you can resize, recode a coded segment by using those grabbers. They used to be very specific to PDF type documents, but now they're appearing when you get to reselecting. They're not there where I just highlight in the first instance. It's only if I reselect. There are changes to the emoticodes. So let's just select this whole paragraph, which I seem to be concentrating on, and have a look at the emoticodes. They look different. In essence, what MAXQDA has decided to do is actually use the standard emoticode symbols, which you see in your smartphone, you get in various internet programs, all sorts of apps and so on. So we've got literally thousands of possible emoticodes now, but they are, rather than the individual ones that MAXQDA had created itself, they are now the standardized ones as you may be more or less familiar with. And if we go to the people ones, we also have the possibility of selecting a skin tone option, so that you can make the people ones look in races as you want, and so on. So I'm seeing that appearing in other places as well. And so on. So that's things that you can do. We've still got the favorites and the recently used ones, and obviously the smileys and so on. So we can pick an emoticode and close it, and there we are. It's been attached there to that paragraph. Select it. Oh, no, I selected the hours at school. I've got to select the blue paragraph to get the emoticode one. There we are. So they still have the blue color by default, the emoticodes, but they have some extra ones. If I open up a word cloud, actually I didn't need to activate. I just go to the interviews, right click and create a word cloud for all of the interview documents. We've got just a little thing here that we can now click a word. I'm going to pick the word leisure. It's not a very exciting word cloud, but if I right click on a word in the word cloud here, I can go straight to an autocode leisure with a new code, and it just asks, there we are, create the code. What color do I want to give it? Let's give it a purple color. It has a code memo. Okay, and I get the standard, what do I want to actually code it with? Let's code just the sentence, but I can, as previously, though, this dialog is exactly the same as before. So I've coded 21 sentences with the code leisure direct from the word cloud, just from the context menu on a word in that word cloud, and so on. That is a new feature for coding there. And one last one on coding. I go to the codes menu. If you use the creative coding tool, let's open up this, and say I drag in the unpaid labor group there and click start organizing codes. If I choose to merge two codes in the creative coding tool, I do it just by dragging. I'm just going to drag childcare onto domestic work. Merge codes, yes. So now we've got one code called domestic work, which includes all the coded segments for childcare. I'm going to quit creative coding, and I'm going to answer yes to store this. My little code group moves up to the top of the code system, so I may need to drag it back down to get it into the same place there we are before. But now, in the domestic work memo, code memo, if I open this, we get a little audit trail. It tells me, reminds me that I merged the unpaid labor childcare coded segments into this domestic work code on the 26th of November and so on. So there we are. That's how the audit trail when you merge codes. You do not get that effect if you merge codes using the old one where a right click and move the coded segments, and then the other thing, because the original code remains in place just with no coded segments. So it is only in the creative coding tool that this audit trail appears. Now, so Vios, sorry, is asking codes as common language, so emoticodes as common language. Well, in effect, yes, Vios. Emojis are becoming a global language, aren't they? So they carry meaning to a certain extent across all languages. I think that's the point that you're making. And so, yes, they are a common language for all of us. Nice point. Thank you. I'm now going to go to memos. And think about changes that have appeared for memos. Document memos, oh, sorry, quick question from A&A. I don't know whether MAXQDA knows how much people are using the emoticodes, A&A. They're not like Facebook and so on, or Google. They're not collecting any information about what you do. It's only what people have asked them when people send feedback saying, so I guess some people might have said, it would be nice if I could have skin tones colors for the faces in emoticodes and so on. That might have prompted some of it. And I think they might have just observed that people are using emojis in so many more places. That's why they come. But no, MAXQDA doesn't know what tools people use. It has no means of collecting any data of that kind because you work independently on your own computers. Thank goodness, I would say. So memos. If I open the document memo for, say, Than, a subtle change, but down at the bottom, as a new field has appeared called document summary. It's within the document memo. So each document code memo, sorry, each document memo has this possibility. And it gives you the possibility. I think we can move the boundary if we want. Late on in your project, I would suggest you could come into this field and write up a summary of all the important things for your research contributed by Tan, not quite sure how to pronounce the name, in a summary of that document. You could, to inform that work, you could choose to activate Tan and activate your entire code system. For the moment, I'll just activate all the interview codes, knowing that Tan is there interviewed. And then I might work through all of these coded segments, there are 23 of them, and use those to inform my document summary. That is one way of working. So I've got all of the coded segments. Multiple screens might be really helpful for this. So I can have a much bigger screen of retrieved segments and have my document memo on another screen maybe. But I can create document summaries. This is a new field that wasn't available before within the document memo. And similarly, in the code system, let me just reset the activations here again and open up, say, the typical Workday code. And again, we have a code summary field underneath the main memo. So the top half is for your ordinary memos. In code terms, we put the definitions, rules, examples, and so on to help code consistently and so on. But at a late stage in the project, we might well come in and complete this. And to do this one, we would need to activate all the documents and the one code, and then work through all of those coded segments. That's all. Let's get all the data. 16 segments. Yes, I've got 16. There are 16 typical Workday segments, 16 down here. Pretty much a fool's errand. Typical Workday, summarizing that is going to be not very successful because people have quite a huge variety of Workdays, hopefully. So I don't think that's going to be a useful summary in this particular context example I'm using, but hopefully you get the idea. So those are two new possibilities in memos. Also, by the way, in within document memos, let's go back to Chris and this one and do a right click for a new insert memo. There used to be quite a restriction on the length of title. You can write longer memo titles for things like these in document memos. The document and code memos are unlikely to need that, or free memos also. Free memos, you can have longer titles now. There was a kind of field restriction that some people were finding quite burdensome. So a small change that. Another significant one, and I'm going to open up, let's just reset my activations again, and I'm going to open up Riley's document here. We've got some in-document memos in Riley. Let's open up the document margin and just limit it, take out the paraphrases, and we'll have memos, yes. So we can see we've got some memos here in Riley's document, quite a few of them. So now, if I want to export this document, as part of the export process, I can choose to include memos. So let's go to the export button. I want to export it as a docx document. I don't think this works in PDF, but it does work in docx. If you want PDFs, you may need to explore different ways. And if I put a tick in the include memo content, what I will get is these memos appearing within the document when I complete the export. Let's go through with that export. I'll put it on my desktop. I'll put it Riley export and save it. And let's just go back and pick that up off my desktop. Don't want that one. Riley export, open that. And there we are. Here is that interview document. And you can see the memos here, how it appears with a sort of yellow shading, and the text of the memo and its title has come within so that is another new feature. You can export with memos inside there. It involves going through this export and choosing to include, you see, on PDF, it's not offering me the memo content. For PDFs, if I put the display memos, I think it'll repeat this display with the memo to the side. Okay, but if you want memos inside the document, it's got to go out as docx. Everyone's still happy? I've got more things to show you, so I'm going to keep going. Next change is to import stuff. There's a new way of working with focus groups. So if I have the focus group selected, let's just have focus group there. I'm going to import a new focus group document. So if I go to the import focus group transcripts, and this one doesn't have timestamps, so I need transcripts without timestamps. And I've got it here in a document folder. It's the old focus group transcript from the the life satisfaction example, but I've made a couple of changes in it. So I'm going to import it as a focus group transcript. And here is a new dialog for the focus group transcript import. And there are three things for you to observe on this dialog. First, we can choose to exclude from the it's all to do with the coding of the speakers. I could choose not to code the moderator, for example. In the other example, they've got a couple of things where it's got source : and so on, which obviously isn't a speaker and so on. But by removing ticks, you can exclude some speaker kind of categories from the import. Also, we can choose a code color separately for each speaker. So let's make Miles, say, green, and Lisa red. And now, look, now this one, Lucas, we've got one instance where we've got a typing error. Lucas has got an extra S attached. So for this one, I don't want Lucas as a separate speaker. In the old days, I'd have had to go back, edit the source document to remove the S where it put. But now, if I click here, I can say, no, this one should actually be coded to Lucas singular, and it'll get the same color. I've got the same thing with Casey. Let's have Casey as a purple. And there one we're missing an E. So when at the moment that Casey is getting blue, but when I link it with a Casey with an E, it gets the purple color. And now Parker, we can give that one, what color haven't we used yet? Yellow. There we go. I've got more colors if I want. So now I've excluded the moderator. I've corrected a couple of typing errors that would otherwise have given me separate speakers from typing errors. And I've chosen individual colors, and it tells me how many segments each contributes. Now I do the import, and it's put them in the right place. Let's just close that margin. And if we scroll down, here we get Lucas in blue, and now Miles in green, and so on. And there's the Lucas with the double S correctly coded to Lucas with the single S. So that's a nice little neat improvement to focus group imports. Next one, any questions on that? Oh, very quick, any good changes for focus group import. There's somebody seeing something useful for them. Great. Let's come back up to interviews. And for this one, I'm just going to do I'm going to open up a document first of all. I want a document here called Sylvia. I'm just opening it outside MAXQDA to show you a couple of things. So in a Word document, from another example, I've already done some work here outside of MAXQDA. I've highlighted a couple of sentences here with yellow, and I've made a Word comment using the review add a comment kind of function within Word, and so on. So there are a couple of features in this Word document that I don't want to lose when I import it into MAXQDA. I have to close it. Might as well close Riley. I don't need that one anymore. So now if I bring that Sylvia document, import it. No, I didn't mean to open it. if I just drag this Sylvia document and put it, oh, no, lost my MAXQDA in the background. Now I want MAXQDA, and there, right. Not so easy, this drag and drop. I want to put this into the interviews one. There we are. I've imported it into interviews. And now if I scroll down, we find the yellow highlighting. Okay, it's not showing, but if I click on it, MAXQDA has done the best it can to identify that yellow color. It's created a label code called yellow, and it's given it the closest it can get. Not a particularly good match, I must admit, but also my memo is there. If I open up the memos sidebar and see the memos and scroll down, there we are. There's the memo as well. So now MAXQDA will import shadings and comments from Word within the document as you bring them in. And one other little one, which I don't have a good example for, but in the literature section, if I open up a PDF here, let's just close that. Just a neat little function. You've got an extra tool here, which would allow you to rotate pages. Sometimes you get a PDF and some of the pages are sideways because of the way people have created them. And you end up trying to, very, very difficult to work with them in MAXQDA. Well, we can rotate an individual page. So I'm here on page 2 of 3. I could rotate that sideways. Now you can see it's now gone to the difficult way, but I've still got the coded segment there working with it. That's interesting. But I can go on rotating. It's now upside down, left to right. And by the way, the other pages are still the right way up. It's only rotating the currently active page. Last rotation has brought it back to the right place. Oh, now I've got to do another one. I had something else slightly open. Now I've got that right, and that right. Yes, it's difficult to rotate the screen. Yes. So I hope that's of use to some of you. Obviously, some people have asked for that, so you can rotate PDFs inside MAXQDA. There are some changes. Let's just minimize a few of these things because they're bring the clutter up. Let's open up the survey part of the thing because there are just some changes to the survey routine, categorize survey data. So if I activate my survey, and I notice we've got a document at the top of with the survey questions, I don't want that to be included in the analysis. So having activated the whole group, I deactivate the PDF with the questions, and I'm going to activate. Actually, I'll activate one question and its subcodes here. And I go to the analysis menu where we've always had, or for a long time, we've had the categorized survey data. And I'm going to want to look at the categorization. It says drag in the question. So I bring in the question code. Don't worry if you're not a survey analyst. If this won't make so much sense, but anybody who is there. Here is the revamped categorized survey data window. Those who've used it before will notice that we used to have some little toolbar buttons. We've now got a proper menu bar with bigger buttons and explanations as to where we should be dealing with. As before, we've got the responses here. For some reason, someone's coded several of these with emojis, emoticodes, rather than labels, and so on. But now inside here, we've got some extra search and autocode functions. And in particular, with this button, we can straight away search for something. I can't remember what I was going to use here. I won't go through with that. We can run the search and autocode for that. But we can also, if you're doing a lot of survey work and you've created dictionaries from MaxDictio, you possibly need to have MaxQDA Plus for this particular tool. You can autocode a whole lot of things. We've got a code for relationships where any of these words or part words, friend, family, families, mother, father, son, and so on, if any of those occur, they will be coded with the relationships code from this dictionary. And we can have multiple categories, each with their own set of search items in a dictionary. So if I autocode with dictionary, and I want to autocode any responses containing this, I've got a new object that we can code. We've always been able to code the search hit, the search item. We've always been able to code the paragraph or the sentence, but now we've got responses. In the survey context, a response is a group of sentences. So this one down here I think has two sentences in, and so on. So we can choose to code the whole response, and one, well, go with that, see if that will work. And here the relationships code has been done, 16 segments coded, okay, and we can see if I click on the relationships, I can see all the segments. So here's one been coded because of the word family, this one because of grandchildren, this one because of children, and so on. So you can see how that dictionary has interacted with the segments to give me an automatic coding, and that could be immensely powerful if you're doing a lot of survey work and you reuse large chunks of autocode dictionaries and so on. So that's all within the categorize window, and this menu bar has been improved. So let's close that because that's the change to the survey tool, and reset the activations. Minimize that, reset the activations. Always good practice after you've been doing things to carefully reset your activations before you move on to the next. Check the status bar, everything's back to naught. Summarizing and paraphrasing. Anybody work with media, with videos? We've got a video interview here. So let me open the interview with someone called May here. And if I open up the multimedia browser, and now I haven't got the audio linked, so you couldn't hear the audio that plays there, but you can see the wave form along here. Now, we've always had the possibility with video that we can transcribe it, creating a full transcript as a document attached to the video and linked to it with timestamps. We've also always had the possibility of direct coding. That's what these coding bars are showing here. So that's a coded segment on the waveform audio part. But what we now have is an additional facility to paraphrase your video. So you might have created a full transcript, but you might also decide to use the paraphrases to mark some other aspect of what you can see in the video as an alternative to transcribing it. It's this button here, and it's a mode button. So when I turn paraphrase on, when I click on this, I move into paraphrase. The window has changed a bit. There is a paraphrase segment I've already created, and there is another. If I just play the thing forward, let it just scroll. Hang on, let me just, I want to go back a little bit. Now, I'm not very, okay, so I could drag that and create a segment in that way, and I can create a new paraphrase like this, and up comes a little paraphrase window, and I can type in my little paraphrase summary there, and it's added it on there, and when I hover over it, I can read it. So that, in essence, you need to get skilled at using these start and finish tags for creating the beginnings and ends of segments and so on. So that is paraphrasing inside media files, audio and video. That's a new feature. Summaries. Let's go and look quickly at summaries. If I open up the summary grid, I think this is a marvelous tool. This is data reduction after coding, remember. So I take a coded item here in the document Riley. I've highlighted the code free time self-care. And in the middle section here, I can see that I've got several segments, or long segment. I've got one very long segment in Riley here, but there could be 3 or 4 segments in some cases here. And one of my colleagues has already done a little summary of what this contains. It doesn't look a very exciting summary. Let's see if we've got anything better here. Selim, typical work day. It is two, one long and one short segment. And we've got a summary. Selim wakes up relatively early and uses the first 2 hours with his children and so on. Data reduction. All that data, whoops, I didn't mean to highlight it, but never mind. All that data has been reduced to this volume of data. Remember that? And then by going into a summary table, and here we are, Riley, Matteo, and Selim, and the typical workday, have we got, here we are, Selim, and if I just make it a little bit bigger, here we are, Selim wakes up relatively early, uses the first 2 hours to take care of his children. That's the summary we just saw. So this is unchanged so far. But at the top of this column, the typical workday column here, we've got a little memo symbol. And this is where we can directly access the code summary. Remember when I was talking about the memos, I said there's a new field in my code memos. There's a new field for the summary of that code memo. Well, we can access it from within the summary table. So if I double click on that, it opens up my typical workday. Now in here, I can work on my code summary. When I talked about this code summary before, I said you would activate all of the documents and the one code and work from the code retrieve segments panel. If you've done data reduction by summarizing, you can now work with your summaries here in this column, scrolling up and down this column, reading the condensed data reduced, and then summarize that data into a full code summary. Data reduction in 4 steps, was it? We coded, we then reduced the codes to summaries, we then reduced those summaries to a code summary. 3 steps. But we're steadily getting the data more and more condensed, and that's one way of making qualitative data more accessible. So that's the code summary. Now, we've always had the possibility of rotating, inverting rows and columns. So now, if I invert the columns so that we've got the typical workday as a row and my speakers as columns, I could come to someone like Riley, and now from here, I can access the document memo with its summary. So an alternative, if I've created one of these with lots of codes in it, is I could now access that and create a case summary for Riley. Someone started one up there, but it should be down here in the document summary in this example. But I can summarize, again, from the summaries down in this column, down across multiple codes maybe, I can create a case summary for each document, and I can create new ones. Let me just double click on this one. No, right click. Oh no, it's not allowing me to. Okay, I suspect Selim doesn't already have a code memo. He does. Okay, that should have been possible. Move on, because time is short. Oh, and the summaries come up in another surprising place. I like this one. Let's so I'm activating my interview documents and flexibility, and I'm going to go to my visual tools and open up the Code Matrix browser. Good old Code Matrix browser. Okay, remember this with numbers and so on, the frequency with which each code has been used in each one. So I hope if I hover over one of these segments, in the pop-up that's come there, you can see it's slightly difficult to read, but it's showing me the summary. At the end of that long line, it says summary. Riley can work flexible hours and can decide on her own how to, oh, it went away, but I can actually read the summary of the 2 coded segments that's been created in the last tool I was looking at, the summaries tool. So for any one of these, I haven't got a very good example here. There isn't a summary already created there. Okay, so let's activate some other ones. Let's we want the typical workday. That's been summarized. So let's just refresh this. Okay, typical workday. Now let's hover over that 3, and yes, now you've got a decent summary coming up there. Riley works flexible hours, mostly works alone, sometimes in a team. I think that's pretty exciting. You know that you can double click on here to drill down and extract the coded segments in full, so the full source data, But at the same time, hovering over here, I can read the summary. This might encourage more people to use this particular data reduction step, summarizing, because the summaries are now becoming available in more ways. Very near the end now, folks. So hang in there if you can. But it's so exciting. There's so much stuff to cover. New exports. Oh yes, exports. So for this one, that's interesting. As I close the Code Matrix browser, then it's reset things. I didn't know it was going to do that. If I go to the analysis and reset coding query, that was what I was expecting to do, or back to the home ribbon and reset activations. But it's reset the whole thing. I'm going to do the interviews, and let's have all the current work-life balance codes. And I'm going to run a code relations browser this time. This is the one that looks for intersections of codes. Okay, and let's turn this one to numbers. So remember this one, we have codes in the columns and the rows. In the setup dialog, I could have had different ones looking for intersections. But I've just lazily had the same. But there is a new export available from here. If I go to the export functions and choose to export it, I'll put it on my desktop, and go to the type of export. This is a little bit hidden. I hope they'll create a tool on the toolbar in the future. But for those that want to work with network analysis, there is now the possibility of exporting your code relations browser table to Excel as an adjacency matrix. Now, I'm not particularly familiar with that aspect, but hopefully there's somebody around for whom that is a wonderful possibility. They would then go on working with tools like Gephi, I think it's called, doing their network analysis with data that originated as qualitative data. They've analyzed it in MAXQDA, and then they've moved it out for doing their network analysis in Gephi and so on. So that's where you can find that tool. Code Relations Browser, create it and do the export. I'm told that if you have different columns and rows, different codes in the columns and rows, in the export, this particular export for the adjacency matrix, it will add in the extra columns and rows, because for the adjacency matrix, they have to be the same. But hopefully that will work for some people. I won't go through with that. That would be a little bit tedious. And from the reports menu, we have a new export here called document profiles. Again, let's just reset my activations. And this one will export. Okay, I do want some activation. So let's have the interviews and let's have the flexibility and the satisfaction codes maybe, and do the export. And I can choose variables. This is an export table of code frequencies and variable values. And at the moment, from the selection, I'm doing civil status, number of children, age, and employment. Okay, we'll have all of those. Click OK. Where do I want to put it? I'll put it on my desktop. I'll call it Document Profiles 2 in case there's another one there, and it will be an XLSX file. It makes most sense as an Excel file. Click Save. Once again, I'll need to go and open that outside of MAXQDA. I don't need those. There it is. Open it up. And here it comes. So we have our document. We have the columns, the document group, document name, the document memo. We have the variables first, civil status. These are variable values. And as I scroll across, we come eventually to the code frequencies of the codes that I selected. So that's document profiles, again, probably for further analysis in some other kind of software. So that is a new export. I'll minimize that in case somebody wants to ask me a question about it. But that was the document profiles export. And the last one is a MAXDictio tool. So this is for those who want to do quantitative things. It's a more expensive version of MAXQDA needed for this. And we have a word matrix browser. This is new. Yes, for this one, I don't actually want this. I want a different project. I remember now, I want to have the life satisfaction project open for this. So I'm just changing to a different example project with different data. And I want the interviews for this. I want the word matrix browser. And I've got one set up here ready. I want to look for the way the students describe mother or mum or mom, father, dad or pop, parents, and so on. Generally, I can choose as many words as I want to put in the list here. I can limit it to activated documents. I want the whole words because I found if I left pop in without the whole words, it found popular and population and things like that. And I'm going to sort by documents, click OK. And now I get a table with counts for each word in each document, how many times each. So it's a kind of lexical search, multiple lexical search for 6 or 7 words at the same simultaneously. I can add in some column and row totals, and I can look and see which words are popular. So these are American students, so nobody talks about mum, which is what English students would do. They talk about mom, but they do talk about dad. I thought Americans call their fathers pop, but nobody does, it seems. Father and dad are used, and parents and so on. So just a little example of the word matrix browser in the MAXDictio tool, for that which you have to have a MAXQDA Plus license. Let me go back to my presentation. If you want to see the full list of all the new features, I've covered the most important ones, I believe, but either make a note of this link from the MAXQDA website /new-MAXQDA-2022, or more simply, open your MAXQDA website, go to the bottom of any page where you've got the navigation lists, and in the support column of the site navigation, look for release notes and find the release notes for version 2022. And you can see a full list of all of the changes. There are some that are too many for me to actually cover in this presentation. And my very last points. If you are upgrading a project from version 2020 to 2022, the only problem that I'm aware of you having is because the new emoticode symbols are not compatible with the old ones, your old emoticodes will be transformed into regular codes and labeled. They'll have a text, the name of what the emoticode was. They will not have their little symbols appearing. It'll just say, this is how the emoticode will appear, emoticode dash and whatever kind of one it was. That's the only significant problem of upgrading a project from 2020 to 2022. If, on the other hand, you try and go back at a future stage, you'll have some particular problems, in particular with PDF data. It looks like if you've got codes, ordinary text codes in a PDF, they will lose their text status and become just images. That is quite serious. So it would, I think you would not want to. This might be relevant actually if some people in a team have got version 2022 and others have got version 2020. That could be quite complicated if you've got PDF data. The new emoticodes will be converted into, just like the other ones, emoticode and name, but these are the new emoticodes going back the other way. Memo titles, that's the old restriction on the length of a memo. 63 characters was the old limit. So if you convert a 2022 project back to 2020, any memo title beyond that will be cut off. And all of your memo summaries, code summaries and document summaries in memos, those will be lost as well because that field doesn't exist in the old 2020 or earlier versions. So I think I've got to the end, folks. Anybody got any other questions for me? I'm just checking to see if anybody sent a question to me directly.